In 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus purchased their dream home in Westfield, New Jersey, a beautiful 6-bedroom house at 657 Boulevard. Shortly after closing the deal, their excitement turned to terror when they started receiving disturbing letters from an anonymous sender who referred to themselves as the Watcher. The first letter arrived just 3 days after the Broaddus family moved in. It read, "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. ****. The letter then went on to detail unsettling information about the family. How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? ****. The Watcher claimed that the house had been the subject of their family for decades and that they had been put in charge of watching it. They also mentioned the Broaddus children, addressing them as young blood, and asking if they were aware of what lay within the walls of the house. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will. As more letters arrived, they grew increasingly threatening. The Watcher mentioned specific details about the family's activities, describing their cars, the renovations they were making, and even the names of their children. The letters became more ominous. I am pleased to know your names now and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. Will the young bloods play in the basement? Terrified, the Broaddus family contacted the police. An investigation was launched, but the letters kept coming, and the Watcher remained elusive. The letters hinted at a deep obsession with the house, suggesting that the Watcher was someone very familiar with the property. 657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Despite hiring private investigators and conducting their own research, the Broadduses couldn't uncover the identity of the Watcher. The stress of the situation took a toll on the family, leading them to move out and put the house back on the market. However, the story of the Watcher had spread, and potential buyers were scared off. The mystery of the Watcher remains unsolved to this day. The letters have stopped, but the fear and paranoia they instilled in the Broaddus family linger. The once dream home at 657 Boulevard became a nightmare, haunted not by ghosts, but by the chilling presence of a Watcher in the shadows. After moving out, the Broaddus family couldn't shake the terror that had gripped their lives. They continued to pay the mortgage and taxes on the house, but they couldn't bring themselves to live in it. They attempted to sell the house, but the rumors of the Watcher had spread throughout Westfield, making it nearly impossible to find a buyer. One day, a new letter arrived at their current residence, despite them having kept their address confidential. The letter read, "To the Broaddus family, you cannot hide. I know where you are, and I will always be watching." The family was horrified to realize that the Watcher had somehow found them. They ramped up their security measures, installing cameras and alarm systems at both their new home and 657 Boulevard. As the months went by, the Broadduses grew desperate. They even considered tearing down the house and selling the land, but their request was denied by the local planning board. The house remained, an empty shell holding dark secrets and attracting curious onlookers. In an attempt to uncover the Watcher's identity, Derek and Maria shared their story with a wider audience, hoping someone might recognize the writing or provide a clue. Despite this, the Watcher's identity remained a mystery, and the letters continued sporadically, each more cryptic than the last. 657 Boulevard is mine. It always has been and always will be. You are only its temporary caretakers. During this period, some neighbors began to suspect each other. Paranoia gripped the tight-knit community as everyone wondered who among them could be the Watcher. The Broaddus family hired forensic linguists and cryptographers to analyze the letters, but nothing conclusive was found. The Watcher was careful, meticulous, and always one step ahead. One late winter evening, Derek decided to visit the house alone, determined to face his fears and perhaps catch the Watcher in the act. As he approached the house, he saw a figure standing in the shadows across the street. His heart raced, but he gathered his courage and called out, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" The figure remained silent, then turned and disappeared into the darkness. Shaken, Derek entered the house. As he moved through the empty rooms, He felt a chill in the air and an overwhelming sense of being watched. In the basement, he found a fresh letter pinned to the wall with a rusty nail. Derek, you should not have come here alone. The house knows you. I know you. Leave or you will regret it. Terrified, Derek fled the house and called the police. They conducted a thorough search but found no one. The letter was analyzed but provided no new clues. Years passed, and the Broaddus family continued to grapple with the trauma. They eventually found a family willing to rent the house under strict conditions, including the installation of additional security measures. The renters, a young couple, were aware of the house's history but were undeterred by the legend of the Watcher. For a while, it seemed the nightmare had ended. The renters reported no strange occurrences, and the letters stopped. The Broaddus family began to hope that maybe, just maybe, the Watcher had moved on. But then, on a quiet spring morning, another letter arrived at the Broaddus' new home. I have been patient. I have been waiting. 657 Boulevard is alive, and it is calling to you. Come back or the Watcher will come for you. This time the letter was signed, not by the Watcher, but by a chillingly familiar name, Maddie. The Broadduses were thrown into turmoil. Could it be that Maddie, or someone inspired by her, had found them and taken up the mantle of the Watcher? The thought was almost too much to bear. The police reopened the case, and the investigation took a new turn. They explored the possibility of a connection between Maddie and the original Watcher. The unsettling reality that this nightmare could be part of a larger, more sinister network began to take shape. The Broaddus family, determined to end this once and for all, decided to hire a team of private investigators with expertise in stalking and criminal networks. They delved deep into the history of 657 Boulevard, uncovering a web of secrets and strange occurrences dating back decades. What they found was chilling. Several previous owners had received letters similar to those sent by the Watcher, though less threatening. These letters spoke of the house's legacy and the importance of watching over it. It seemed that the Watcher was not one person but a series of individuals, each passing down the role to a successor. Armed with this knowledge, the Broaddus family and their team of investigators set out to find the current Watcher. They interviewed former neighbors, delved into historical records, and tracked down previous homeowners. Each clue brought them closer to the truth but also deeper into the darkness that surrounded 657 Boulevard. One night, Derek received a call from one of the investigators. They had found a lead, a name that kept appearing in the background of their research. A reclusive man who had lived in the neighborhood for years, known to be obsessed with local history and the spiritual significance of certain properties. Derek and the investigators confronted the man, who eventually broke under pressure. He confessed to being one of the Watchers, claiming he was part of a secret society dedicated to protecting the house's legacy. He revealed that Maddie had indeed been part of their network, drawn to the house's dark allure. With this confession, the police were able to dismantle the network. The man and several others were arrested, and the Watcher's reign of terror was finally over. The Broaddus family, though scarred by their experience, began to heal. They sold 657 Boulevard to a new family, who moved in without fear, knowing the Watcher was no more. But even as the Broaddus family moved on, the legend of the Watcher persisted. The story became part of Westfield's folklore, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most beautiful facades. And though the Watcher was gone, the house at 657 Boulevard remained, its walls holding the secrets and whispers of those who had watched and waited. Despite the dismantling of the Watcher network, the Broaddus family couldn't fully escape the psychological scars. They tried to move on, but the experience had left a permanent mark. They sold 657 Boulevard to a couple who were aware of its history but believed the terror was behind them. For a while, things were quiet. The new owners, the Mitchells, enjoyed their new home without incident. They updated the property, painting the walls and landscaping the garden, hoping to erase any remnants of its dark past. However, it wasn't long before the house began to whisper its secrets once again. One autumn evening, Mrs. Mitchell found a strange object in the garden. A small, intricately carved wooden box. Curious, She brought it inside and showed it to her husband. They opened the box to find a collection of old photographs, each depicting the house in various stages of its history. Some photos dated back over a century, showing the house as it stood through different eras. At the bottom of the box was a letter, yellowed with age. The letter read, "To the custodians of 657 Boulevard, the house has chosen you. It has seen many families, many lives, and many secrets. You are now part of its story. Protect it, honor it, and it will reveal its mysteries to you." Signed, the caretakers ****. The Mitchells were intrigued but unsettled. They knew the house had a history, but this felt different. More personal, more insidious. Over the next few weeks, they began to notice odd occurrences. Doors they were certain had been locked were found open. Lights flickered without explanation. At night, they heard faint whispers, as if the house itself was trying to communicate. One night, Mr. Mitchell decided to explore the attic, a space they had yet to venture into. As he climbed the creaky stairs, the temperature dropped noticeably. The attic was filled with old furniture, dusty trunks, and forgotten relics. In the corner, he found a large, antique mirror covered with a white sheet. When he removed the sheet, he discovered an inscription on the frame. To see what lies within, one must look beyond the surface. As he gazed into the mirror, he felt a strange sensation, as if the room around him was shifting. The reflection showed not just the attic, but fleeting images of people, families who had lived in the house long before. Their faces were etched with fear, as if they too had been watched. Disturbed, Mr. Mitchell covered the mirror and hurried back downstairs. He shared his experience with his wife, and together they decided to dig deeper into the house's history. They visited the local library, searching through old newspapers and archives. What they found was chilling. 657 Boulevard had a long history of unexplained events and tragedies. Families who had lived there often left abruptly, their reasons shrouded in mystery. There were reports of disappearances, accidents, and even a few unsolved deaths. The house seemed to have a dark influence on those who resided within its walls. One name kept appearing in their research: Elias Walker, a man who had lived in the house in the early 1900s. Walker was known for his eccentricities and his obsession with the occult. According to the records, he believed the house was a conduit to another realm, a place where the spirits of the past lingered. He performed rituals to communicate with these spirits, convinced that they held the secrets of the universe. The Mitchells realized that the Watcher Network wasn't just a group of stalkers. It was a cult, dedicated to preserving the house's dark legacy. Elias Walker was their founder, and the Watchers were his disciples, continuing his work long after his death. Determined to put an end to the house's malevolent influence, the Mitchells sought the help of a renowned paranormal investigator, Dr. Evelyn Moore. Dr. Moore had a reputation for dealing with haunted properties and had successfully cleansed many locations of their supernatural taints. Dr. Moore arrived with a team of specialists. They conducted a thorough investigation, using advanced equipment to detect any paranormal activity. Over several nights, they documented strange phenomena: unexplained cold spots, disembodied voices, and shadowy figures moving through the house. The climax of their investigation occurred in the attic, where Mr. Mitchell had found the mirror. Dr. Moore set up a series of rituals designed to communicate with the spirits trapped within the house. As they began, the room grew colder, and the atmosphere became heavy with an oppressive energy. Suddenly, the mirror shattered, and a ghostly figure appeared before them. It was Elias Walker, his eyes filled with a desperate longing. He spoke, his voice echoing through the attic. "Free us. Break the cycle. Only then will the house be at peace." Dr. Moore and her team worked through the night, performing a cleansing ritual to banish the spirits and break the hold the house had on its inhabitants. As dawn broke, the oppressive energy lifted, and a sense of calm settled over 657 Boulevard. The Mitchells decided to stay in the house, believing that the worst was over. They continued to renovate and care for the property, hoping to build a new, happier history for 657 Boulevard. The Broaddus family, now free from the Watcher's terror, found solace in knowing that the house's dark past had finally been laid to rest. They moved on with their lives, but they never forgot the lessons they had learned. The story of the Watcher and the secrets of 657 Boulevard became a local legend, a cautionary tale about the hidden darkness that can lurk behind the most beautiful facades. And while the house stood as a testament to resilience and the power of confronting one's fears, its walls would forever whisper the secrets of those who had come before. In the end, 657 Boulevard was not just a house. It was a story, one that would be told for generations to come, a reminder that some places are haunted not by ghosts, but by the echoes of the past. Even though the Mitchells believed they had cleansed the house, the sense of lingering unease never completely vanished. Little things continued to happen that they brushed off as their imagination or the old house settling. The creak of footsteps in empty hallways, faint whispers at night, and fleeting shadows became part of their daily life. One evening, Mrs. Mitchell found a hidden door in the basement behind an old bookshelf. Curiosity piqued. She called Mr. Mitchell, and together they managed to open it. The door led to a narrow, winding staircase that descended into a forgotten cellar. The air was thick and musty, and the dim light of their flashlights barely penetrated the darkness. At the bottom of the stairs, they found an old iron door with intricate carvings that looked ancient. With some effort, they managed to push it open, revealing a small, windowless room. In the center of the room stood a stone pedestal with a dusty, leather-bound book resting on it. The air around the book seemed to hum with a strange energy. As they approached the pedestal, the room's temperature dropped sharply. Mrs. Mitchell hesitated, but Mr. Mitchell, driven by a mix of curiosity and an urge to finally understand the house's secrets, opened the book. It was filled with handwritten notes, drawings, and symbols, all in Elias Walker's handwriting. The book detailed Walker's experiments and rituals, his obsession with the house, and his belief that it was a gateway to another realm. He had conducted numerous rituals, trying to summon and communicate with the spirits that he believed resided within the house. The final pages were the most disturbing, describing a ritual he performed shortly before his death, which he believed had bound his spirit to the house. The Mitchells realized that while Dr. Moore's cleansing ritual had released many of the spirits, Elias Walker's presence still lingered, tied to the house through his final ritual. Determined to free their home from Walker's influence, they contacted Dr. Moore once more. Dr. Moore returned with her team and carefully examined the book. She confirmed their fears. Walker's spirit was still bound to the house, and they would need to perform a final, more powerful ritual to release him. This ritual would be dangerous, as it involved confronting Walker's spirit directly and breaking the bond he had created. On the night of the ritual, the Mitchells, Dr. Moore, and her team gathered in the cellar. They set up protective symbols and lit candles around the room. Dr. Moore began chanting, her voice echoing off the stone walls. As she continued, the air grew colder, and the room seemed to darken. Suddenly, a figure materialized in the center of the room. It was Elias Walker, his form translucent and flickering. His eyes were filled with anger and desperation. He spoke, his voice a chilling whisper. "You cannot undo what has been done. This house is mine. It will always be mine." Dr. Moore stood firm, continuing the ritual. The candles flickered violently, and the protective symbols glowed with an eerie light. The Mitchells held hands, their fear palpable but their resolve unwavering. Walker lunged at them, but the protective barrier held. With a final, powerful incantation, Dr. Moore completed the ritual. A blinding light filled the room, and Walker let out a scream of anguish as he was pulled into the light, disappearing from sight. The room grew still, the oppressive energy lifting. The candles burned steadily, and the cold chill dissipated. The Mitchells felt a profound sense of relief. They knew, without a doubt, that the house was finally free from Elias Walker's grasp. In the weeks that followed, the Mitchells noticed a significant change. The house felt lighter, more welcoming. The strange occurrences ceased, and the whispers and shadows were gone. They continued to renovate and care for the house, turning it into a warm, inviting home. The Broaddus family, upon hearing the news, felt a deep sense of closure. They could finally move on with their lives, knowing that the nightmare of 657 Boulevard was truly over. The story of the Watcher and Elias Walker became a part of local legend, a tale of perseverance and courage. The house at 657 Boulevard stood as a testament to the strength of those who faced its darkness and emerged victorious. And while the house now radiated peace, its walls would always hold the echoes of the past, a reminder of the battles fought and the spirits that once lingered within. The Mitchells, having faced the darkness and won, continued to build new memories, filling the house with light and love, ensuring that its future would be brighter than its haunted past.